has already chastised Kevin has already chastised me for being early. So and I was early twice today. I was early for the county council this morning, and I was early for us right here. But let me call this meeting to order since we do have a quorum present. In that we have present the Vice President Daniel Karoma, the Secretary Ami Hoper, and Board Member Kina Anyam. And now we also have Substitute Member Margie Delao. I know that Alex Vincent plans to join us.
Hey, David.
Yes, Kevin.
Jerry, please promote Alex. He just sent me a text.
I do not see Alex on the list, so I don't know if he is there. He may think he's on, but I'm looking at the list of attendees. He may have to.
There he is.
Oh, okay. They found him. Okay, excellent. Oh, I see. He's on, but with his wife's name. So that's why I missed him. Okay, so the entire board as it existed a month ago is on. But I think I've already convened the meeting and declared a quorum present. But let me convene the meeting and declare all of the board members present. Before we get to honoring our thank you, Alex. Good to see you. And thanks for being here. Before we get to honoring our former member, I do want to make a couple of comments, and then we will move on with the agenda. The first thing I'd like to do is to offer my condolences, especially to our Catholic board members, staff members, election judges, and voters on the passing of Pope Francis. And I know that Catholics and non-Catholics alike share the feeling of loss. Second, I want to thank Ami, Lisa, and Boris for both attending our meeting this morning with the County Council's Government Operations Committee to discuss our fiscal year 2026 budget, and for the preparation that helped make that meeting a success. It was attended by the committee chair and council president Kate Stewart, and by council members Sidney Katz and Andrew Friedson. They thanked us for our bipartisan approach, and they asked us questions about the number of provisional ballots and the modification of the election judge management system and the $300,000 it's expected to cost to finish that upgrade before the 2026 elections. And then they unanimously recommended approval of our budget to the full council. So that was by definition a successful meeting with the council, and I want to thank everyone who was part of that. Boris being Boris, he has already sent answers to follow-up questions to the council before we even met this afternoon, which was, and I sent copies to the board members. Sorry, former board member, you don't get those anymore. But basically just asking for, it was just data on the provisional ballots and the reasons for the provisional ballots from the last election. So in a few minutes, we're gonna honor our former board member who resigned her position since we last met, and we're gonna discuss legislation that the General Assembly passed this legislative session. But before that, I wanted to remind everyone about the leadership role our board has taken over many years to promoting transparency in the election process. A bill passed, it's not yet signed by the governor, but no reason why it wouldn't be, to require certain transparency measures for local boards of elections. But it will make no changes to how we operate because we already do all of the things that the bill requires and more. Without a legal obligation to do so, the board in November of 2014 started making the audio of its meetings available, and in September of 2021 started live webcasts and video recordings of our business meetings. Since November of 2018, we've also posted board meeting materials at least 3 calendar days prior to our meetings. And anyone can listen to or watch our past board meetings or read our past board meeting materials or meeting minutes by clicking on the links on the board meetings page of our website for the specific meetings or for the years of interest. So if you want to look for something from 2020, you click on the link for 2020, and it will take you to a page that will give you the meetings in 2020 where you can connect to those. We also earlier this year purchased the OWL meeting system to make our webcasts and video recordings of our in-person meetings smoother and easier to follow. And since Boris became the director near the start of 2023, we have posted our agendas on our website 1 week in advance of our public board meetings, as well as advertised the upcoming meetings on the board's website and on various social media platforms. So, and then, well, let me just finally say, the legislation was, as introduced, would have required everyone to live webcast Board of Canvassers meetings. The bill was amended to remove that requirement, but we still do it. We've been doing live webcasts of our canvassing meetings since the 2020 elections. We also live stream the scanning of our canvass mail-in ballots and the post-election manual audit of cast ballots. So, so we are doing a lot of things that we were the first to do, and that we consider to be a good practice to encourage people to have confidence in our work. And I want to thank the board and everyone who was part of it over the years for their role in that. And that's a good segue to our honoring Diane Dillon, who has served on the board since June of 2019. And I say it's a good segue because, well, let me just say the reason why we're honoring her today, for those who don't know, is that Diane resigned from the board effective March 30th, 2025, in order to take a federal government position that was inconsistent with her continuing to serve on the board. We are going to miss you, Diane, as I'm sure you know. But we did want to thank you for almost 6 years of service on the board and almost 2 years as the vice president of the board when the Republicans were in the majority on the board. And I personally wanted to add a couple of things, one of which was that you were an ally always in the efforts towards transparency. I think that speaks well for everyone who was an ally in that, but you in particular, as everyone who follows the board knows, Diane and I don't agree all the time, to put it mildly. And I'm sure both of us are happy to say that. But on those kinds of issues, we have been allies throughout. And that's very much appreciated. I've also appreciated that although Diane is sometimes an election skeptic and asks lots of questions, she has always expressed confidence in the Montgomery County Board of Elections and its staff. And I very much appreciate that. I also say that I remember that we together were responsible for doing the reference checking for the election director candidates, and that was an interesting and fun experience for both of us. I'll just say that the incumbent election director had some pretty amazing good references, but anyway, I was glad that Diane worked with me on that. And then I'll just say, finally, from my perspective, she was well, I'm sure she still is, but as a board member, she was a passionate advocate for her beliefs, and that we've had many great conversations, both publicly and privately, over our 6 years working together. So, Diane, I want to very much thank you for your service, and tell you how happy I am for you that you have had this opportunity, and how much we're going to miss you. Who would like to go next? Because all board members, okay, Daniel got his hand up first, then Alex. So Daniel was really quick there, Diane. He must really have something he wants to say. So go ahead, Daniel.
Yes, indeed, Mr. President. Let me just say that obviously, congratulations to Diane. And it was obviously an opportunity to learn from you. And I learned a lot during the period in which we worked, especially when I think it was two of us who went to double check the election materials before they went out. And that's when we didn't use the hourglass that Alex had, but Diane made sure that every one of the materials in the bag was, was in there. And so obviously, as I say, it's a pleasure. It's been a pleasure working with you, Diane. And I know, you'll do well wherever you go. And one of the things that I really appreciated in this board, and that included you, Diane, is the bipartisanship, but also the seriousness that we take when it comes to doing this work, because we know the impact it makes in all of the residents, the voters and the citizens of Montgomery County. So congratulations to, I don't want to call you my friend because well, I have to stick to what David usually say. I don't know how that's going to help you.
I can use all the friends I can find.
Then I'll call you my friend. Again, congratulations, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Okay, Alex, you were next.
Well, Diane, I venture to guess that there will be no adverse consequences for me publicly proclaiming that I am proud to be your friend. And I also venture to guess that you and I probably, agreed on many more things than you did with our worthy board president, but we did work well together. And I've always appreciated your deep knowledge of the issues with election administration, which in many ways are unrivaled. Your integrity, your passionate commitment to election integrity and orderly administration. And we've had many good conversations over the last few years. We've worked together on the board. And I just really appreciate your commitment, your hard work, your putting in the time, and the fact that you care deeply about these issues and your willingness to serve. So I hope we'll be seeing perhaps a little bit more of each other now as you venture forward in this exciting opportunity. And I'm privileged to be your colleague and even more privileged to be your friend. So I wish you Godspeed and fair weather and a following sea on your next venture.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, Kina, I think you were next, Kina.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. Diane, I echo the sentiments of our other colleagues. It's been a pleasure getting to work with you and getting to know you. And as others have said, while you and I have had good conversations, we've also respectfully had discord, which I think has just been, it's been an example to see how people can not agree and also treat each other respectfully. So I appreciate when you and I have had those moments and been able to laugh about it later on and still work very well together. Thank you for just showing up in that way as a colleague. I look forward to knowing you more. This is not the end of our journey. I look forward to many more laughs. Thank you so much for your service and your dedication to making schedules work, to supporting the colleagues here through the times that were easy and more challenging. I'm really excited for your next opportunity. And as far as I'm concerned, you're becoming a friend in my life. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Margie.
Okay, thanks, David. Diane, it's been so great working with you. We've only worked together for 2 years, but those days during Canvas, it feels much longer. But they're fantastic, and we do the work, and we come in and we bring our dedication, and that's something I really admire about you, how dedicated you are, how passionate you are, and doing this work. And I think it really shines through the time that I've known you. And it's been really great to be able to work with you and just to be on a bipartisan board and to try to figure out, yes, we're going to have things that we don't agree on, but there are things that we do agree on, which to some people's surprise. But that is the nature. At the end of the day, we're here to administer elections are that are fair and free for everyone. And you were a part of that. And you made sure that that happened. So I just want to thank you for everything that you've done. And it's been really great serving with you.
Thank you, Margie.
Okay, last but not least, Ami.
Well, Diane, I've known you both before and during our service on this board, and you've been a friend all along. And it's been great working with you. The canvases were sometimes crazy days. And I think, enjoyed them as colleagues, as friends, and as coworkers on this board that has a serious bipartisan objective that I think was front and center for all of us. And I will miss you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ami. Kevin.
So Diane, like Ami, I've known you actually in sort of two phases of your election life. I forget when we first met. It's probably been 18 years ago.
At least
When you were supporting campaigns and then joining the board, and you were always a pleasure to work with when you were working with a campaign, and a pleasure to work with as a board member. And we'll certainly miss you, but doesn't mean you can't. We won't be seeing you, and hopefully, once you settle down, we can have lunch and chat about your latest and newest adventure. But you'll certainly be missed, and I really have enjoyed working with you.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. And before we go to you, Diane, I'm going to give Boris a chance to say a few words.
Thank you, David. Actually, I have two issues to cover. The first one, if the board allows me, I would like to read a certificate that was issued by County Executive Mark Elrich, which says that County Executive of Montgomery County, Maryland, awards this certificate to Diane Nash Dillon in recognition and appreciation for your leadership and faithful stewardship of democracy. Since joining the board, you have worked tirelessly to make every election a success in Montgomery County. Under Maryland state law, the Board of Elections in each county plays an important role in overseeing the work of our professional staff and assuring voters of every political persuasion that the conduct of elections is nonpartisan. You have provided consistent leadership through numerous changes in election laws and regulations, modernization of procedures and equipment, and expansion of early voting and voting by mail. During the pandemic, you played an essential role in ensuring public health and safety, as well as access to the ballot box. Under your leadership, our jurisdiction has consistently been a model for the nation in conducting accurate, secure, and fair elections. Thank you for ensuring that every vote counts in Montgomery County. In signature, Mark Elrich, County Executive, April 21, 2025. And in addition to this certificate from our County Executive, on my personal note, and I believe on behalf of the whole staff, I would just echo what the board member said and say, we'll miss you, Diane. It was absolute pleasure to work with you. And I know that every staff member always felt that you had their back. So thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Boris, and thank you to the county executive for that wonderful recognition. And Diane, the floor is yours if you have something you'd like to say.
Yeah, thank you. I had absolutely no idea how difficult this would be. And I think Mark Elrich's comments were the most breathtaking ones to receive. On a personal level, I have just thoroughly enjoyed every minute spent with every one of you. Before I forget this one thing I want to say to David, we have been fierce opponents, everybody watching knows, on issues, and we both enjoyed it. Sometimes, because we love to debate, we each like to win our point, and it forces you to come up and marshal the best defense you have for one has for one's position. And so although we've been fierce opponents, never enemies.
Exactly. Thank you.
And oh my gosh. So, and to the rest of you with whom these 2 years have just gone too quickly. Thank you. My goodness. I've enjoyed your friendship so much. And you never know at the beginning if that's how it's going to be. But I just value every one of you and have so enjoyed every aspect of election law. Again, so enervating and frustrating sometimes and just infuriating. But the feelings and the memories just and the importance and this to me is the number one issue in the country, election integrity. And for as tough as some of it got and long, and those canvases really can seem, really, do we have to do this? It's so important. And I just want to thank all of you, knowing that I'm leaving and there's such integrity in the group that's going to be carrying on the really, really critical work. And I want to particularly, if word can get to him, thank Mark Elrich for those just unexpectedly gracious comments. So I know you all have a long meeting ahead. So I'm going to cut it off there and just let you all know that on such a personal level, how much I value our friendships and intend to keep them.
Thank you, Diane. I will. I'll just say yes. You have. I'm pretty sure that you have continuing friendships with everybody who spoke, and we're all looking forward to staying in touch. And we wish you all the best. And we also appreciate your extraordinarily looking after us for the rest of today by saying that we have a long meeting. So we appreciate that. So thank you, Diane, very much, and good luck with everything, and we'll stay in touch.
Thank you, and my love to everybody, as always. Oh my God, and the wonderful staff. Oh, good heavens. I just saw Lisa's name at the bottom. Mindy, I would be remiss. Everything I've said goes equally with the staff with whom I've worked. I just, I am so, even though I said I was going to get off to shorten your meeting, I just have to add this.
Okay.
I want this magnificent staff to know how much I will miss every one of them and look forward to seeing you during the election seasons if I don't manage to pop in otherwise, which I do hope to do. And thank you so much. It is really gratifying to know the integrity of the staff and the entire operation at Montgomery County Board of Elections, because I do remain a skeptic on election law in the larger picture. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Diane. We'll never cut you off when you're trying to say nice things about our staff.
All right, thank you.
That's definitely the case. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on in our agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda from board members? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item, which is disclosure of campaign contributions or attendance at fundraisers. Does anyone have anything to disclose? Okay, I don't see anyone who has anything to disclose. So next is public comment. Boris or Lisa, do we have anyone who has signed up for public comment?
Not in advance. No.
No one has signed in advance to address the board today.
Do we have anyone who has told us, who has not signed up, that they want to speak today?
We have not received any information like that. So
Okay.
no one for today.
All right. So unless I don't see any hands up among our attendees, so I will assume that we do not have any public commenters today. So we will move on to the election director's report. I will point out, as I told board members by email, that when we are expecting to have, and I'm honored to have Delegate Wilkins and Senator Kagan joining us today at approximately 3:30. When I know that both of them are on, or even maybe before I know both of them are on, but when I know that they're ready to go, we will take a break from our agenda. We will go to the item on legislation. We will come back and pick up where we left off. Boris, the floor is yours.
Okay, I'll be very brief. As David already mentioned, we published our agenda a week ahead of the board meeting. That was the case this time as well. All the materials for today's board meeting were published last Thursday, and they are available for everyone on our website. When it comes to voter registration, we, as have established practice, included a list of active and inactive voters for the county, and our active number remains slightly over 700,000. Director's report also includes distribution per party of those registered voters in Montgomery County. When it comes to the State Board of Election, we expect State Board of Elections on its next board meeting on April 29th to consider updated version of obituary policy and its use in list maintenance in the state of Maryland. More on that for the next board meeting once the state board reviews and adopts the policy as presented. When it comes to personnel, we are currently interviewing for the nursing home and vote-by-mail ballot canvassing specialist. We expect this position to be filled in May, while the recruitment, training, and outreach manager position has been advertised, and we will follow the county process and expect successful candidate to be in the office in June this year. When it comes to the temporary positions, we, as I said, we are like accordion. We expand around election season. We shrink after the elections itself. We are down to one temporary colleague who is helping us with the key activities. When it comes to the budget has been prepared and shared with the board, including the last month's spending and the up-to-date spending for the fiscal year. Our projections indicate that our Board of Elections will finish this fiscal year in surplus. Of course, we are still awaiting third and fourth quarter billing from the state as our biggest line item, but we will see more on that for the next board meeting. When it comes to the section activities, I would like just to open with the communication with our voters, what we are reviewing, what we are planning going forward. In this particular time, we reviewed the use of Moco Votes app in conjunction with the texting options that were in place since 2020. It has become really apparent that our voters prefer texting options instead of downloading, regularly updating, and searching through the app to find a near Dropbox early voting site or to request a ballot or similar. Recognizing that a small number of voters actually use the app between 2022 and 2024, that the texting option is the dominant, and that we are expanding to the new social media platform called Blue Sky. The staff has, based on those findings, decided that discontinue use of Moco Votes app and put the resources and emphasis on other avenues and platforms that are more recognized and more used by our voters. When it comes to the voter services, business as usual. When it comes to list maintenance, the work never stops. We are reviewing all the data that is directly provided by the voters or from our reliable sources and partners. So we are doing list maintenance based on different data sets, as well processing records as requested by the voters themselves. The board will find in my report a list of municipal elections that are scheduled for this year. We have no jurisdiction over any municipal elections. However, we do partner with them to provide voter registration lists and precinct registers for any municipality in the county that requests so. And we have listed every municipality that we have received information so far from them that they will have their elections and who shared with us what kind of data they would need in order to have those elections organized at the municipal level. When it comes to the vote by mail section, again, we are doing a bit of further cleanup from the 2024. We are processing applications for vote by mail as they're coming in. And something that, based on our review of what we noticed in 2024, and one of the items was very heavily visible, is the further work is needed with the adult daycare centers, assisted living programs, and similar throughout the county. So we are moving forward to expand this work throughout the whole year in order to prevent any backlog in run-up to election and assist those voters to register to vote, update their voter registration, or vote by mail in order to minimize or prevent provisional ballots that we witnessed in many instances in 2024. Candidate filing is ongoing. The list included in the report includes 19 applications so far that will appear on different ballot styles in the county. Legislative District 20 is the only one that has 3 applicants already. All others are one or two. When it comes to the IT, we have completed our post-election maintenance on voting system. We are now working on the inventory. This is all per state schedule. It's a sequence process, one by one, on the deadline. And we continue to work on our election resource management system with our colleagues from TEPS. This system is set to be in function fully in 2026.
Okay, Boris, I'm going to interrupt you there because I think that both Senator Kagan and Delegate Wilkins are in attendance. If Jerry could promote them to be panelists, we can get started. I want to say how thrilled I am to have both of them. First of all, serving in the roles in which they are serving. Janelle Wilkins is the vice chair of the House Ways and Means Committee and the chair of its election subcommittee, which means that she is essentially the key person in the House on election legislation. Cheryl Kagan is the vice chair of the I don't remember which comes first, energy and the environment and education, and she always adds and elections. Jerry, you haven't promoted her yet. She needs to be promoted. She is under the S's because she has senator in front of her name. There she is. Okay. She is essentially the election expert on the Senate side. So we are very fortunate in Montgomery County that we have 2 such capable people who are essentially in charge of election legislation for the entire state. And they also work closely with us on the legislation that we specifically were advocating for. But I think rather than other than to say thank you 100 times to both of them for I think everyone knows, but I'll just say that the bill to move the primary election 1 week earlier had passed both houses. In fact, it did twice because it passed once in a bill sponsored by Delegate Wilkins and once in a bill sponsored by Senator Kagan, and is on its way to the governor, where we have every indication that he will sign it. And the bill to allow us to count the votes for Board of Education for provisional ballots that are the wrong party ballots, whereas now we have to throw out those ballots completely, which Senator Kagan did an excellent job of demonstrating by tearing some ballots in half at the hearing of the Senate committee. That also passed both houses on its way to the governor. Also, we expect he will pass that. So couldn't have happened without Senator Kagan and Delegate Wilkins, and we are just thrilled to have you here. So I'm going to call on each of you, and then we can continue our discussion about the legislative session after we hear from you. Senator Kagan, why don't you go first?
Okay, thank you, David. Delegate Wilkins, Vice Chair Wilkins, always good to be with you and talking about elections. Friends, colleagues on the Montgomery County Board of Elections, thank you for your service and for all that you do. You should know that David Naiman, you know this, as your chair, is ferocious and present and vigilant and attentive to details and all the things. So I'm going to go fairly quick, but I have a long list. So I sponsored 11 election bills again this year. One of them is being signed into law this tomorrow. I did with Delegate Wims and Boris. You just mentioned municipal elections. Linda Lamone, Jared Demarinis's predecessor, used to, in violation of the law, work with municipalities on their local elections. We now are making that legal. If municipalities want or need assistance in training or equipment or anything, they will be able to have to request that. And if it's available, it would become they can get access. David, I understand that you talked about transparency at the LBEs, the local boards of elections. Delegate Corman and I did that bill. And we just want to go back to greater transparency to address conspiracy theorists and make sure that everybody has confidence in their local boards. Montgomery County already is so transparent, but most of the other 23 are not. So the expectations, the laws that we passed over the years, Delegate Corman and me, posting the meeting agenda and meeting materials 48 hours in advance, at least 48 hours, then live streaming the meetings, and then posting the meetings minutes and the video and keeping that up for at least 5 years. That's really good transparency, and that will now be the law. Partial ballot acceptance, Delegate Roberson. David, thank you for flagging that. And it was hard to explain to people, but we did get that through. And so I think that's good. Board of Education, people should have their votes count, even if they were, the rest of their provisional ballot would be rejected. Scam packs, I sponsored with Delegate Polakovich Carr, and that will be signed into law, making sure that the warnings from the IRS and the Federal Election Commission about phony baloney organizations and people scamming folks are trying to rip folks off, there will be penalties and greater vigilance and stuff in Maryland. Changing the primary date, Delegate Wilkins and me, and thank you, David, for flagging it, along with all the great reasons. So this was not a frivolous matter. This is about having access to community centers and schools that are being renovated, families going off on vacation, summer programs starting. It will be harder to get judges and students and voters potentially. So by moving it forward 1 week, we also can duck Father's Day and Juneteenth and other conflicts on people's schedules. So I thought that was good policy, and it will become law. With Delegate Dana Jones from Anne Arundel, I did election no-shows. There were people who were signing up, taking the training to be election judges and thinking that they're going to learn all these devious, mischievous secrets or something about how elections are run. And then they didn't show up for their service, whether that was early voting or on election day or both. And yet some counties felt obligated to pay. So we said, you may not pay until after you're not going to get paid until after you show up. So that was fiscally important, but also just, our election boards need to know how many people to expect. So those should all become law. I want to just flag a few more that didn't move. Special elections moved out of the Senate again. The House didn't move it. We thought that they might. Exploratory committees, same thing, passed the Senate unanimously, didn't move out of the House. Simplified ballot language is so common sense, and I really thought that might move. Delegate Feldmark was a great partner in that, passed the Senate unanimously again this year. Had a small bill about postage paid voter registration, and ranked choice voting. We used more as conversation starters and didn't push those out of the Senate. Briefly, some things that are unrelated to bills from this year. Boris, you were just talking about texting, and SBE, the State Board of Elections, just got a clearinghouse award, the Cleary Award for text to cure, which was started as a pilot in Montgomery County, went statewide with my bill, Senate Bill 379, that former Governor Hogan had vetoed, but we came back and is law. And it is a cutting edge program that is very successful and I think is being duplicated elsewhere. List maintenance, I also heard, Boris, you mentioned that. So you teed everything up well for me. Appreciate that. 2 years ago at NCSL, the National Conference of State Legislatures, I had a resolution on ERIC, the Electronic Registration Information Center, the database that allows, a voter who moves from state to state. They're going to have their voter registration canceled in their old domicile, and as they are starting in their new place, it increases accuracy. Again, it just, if there's any fear or suspicion about fraud or dead people voting or people voting in more than one state, ERIC is part of how that doesn't happen. And too many, forgive me, this is partisan, and I don't know why. Too many Republican governors have taken their state out of ERIC, which means that their state and other states have databases, voter databases that are less accurate. I think it is inexcusable.
Senator,
Go.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think we should have a longer conversation about ERIC. I agree with you completely. I know that there are others who they have different views, and I think if we can learn more about why it is considered a partisan issue, I think it would be helpful. But we are kind of a little short on time, and I want to make sure I give Delegate Wilkins an opportunity and then get questions if that's okay.
Yep. Okay, so I just had two more things. So Eric, so the resolution was passed 2 years ago. Last year, it became partisan and did not pass. I'm bringing it back, and I think it will be brought again. The last thing I just want to mention, David and colleagues, is internet delivered ballots. And you guys are aware of it. And once again, Montgomery County kind of on the cutting edge and being thoughtful. Boris, you sent out a letter to people who had signed up for internet delivered ballots because they thought it was a good idea. They thought they'd be able to click, click, click and send back a ballot. And they didn't realize that they needed to have a printer and a toner cartridge and a number 10 envelope and all that, and that it's much harder. The return rate is only 67% for internet delivered ballots versus 89% for those who request a mail-in ballot. We've got to figure out how to educate folks that it's not easy. And not only isn't it easy for the voter, but it's a pain in the butt and expensive and time consuming for the LBEs, because you guys have to hand duplicate in bipartisan teams. It's terrible. We want it to be available to those who are serving abroad, who had an emergency trip. We wouldn't want someone, double negative here, we wouldn't want someone to not vote because they couldn't get their ballot, but we don't want it to be common. So we've got to figure that out. And any of you or anyone watching, if you've got ideas, I think that, I don't want to speak for my colleague Delegate Wilkins, but I suspect we'd be happy to listen anyway to your ideas. And then the last thing, Ami, I understand that you are stepping down and you have been a wonderful—
No, Ami is not stepping down. Diane Dillon
is stepping down. Okay.
Diane stepped down on March 30th. Senator, unfortunately, you missed our ode to Diane, which was from 3 to 3:30.
Okay, sorry.
But no,
Okay.
no, please
Ami, I'm glad you're
give me
still
a heart
around.
attack. Yeah.
Okay. We need, and just so you know, your predecessor, David, is doing a great job on the State Board of Elections. And so we are glad to have Jim Shalek there, well-trained in Montgomery County. And with that, I will stop talking and defer to my wonderful colleague. Please.
Okay, but before you do, since you threw in quite a bit there about the web delivered ballots, that I don't, as you know, my view on this is not exactly the same as yours. I like the rest of the board know how difficult they are for both voters and for us. But I am very concerned that we have alternatives for people who, for whatever reason, cannot rely on the United States Postal Service.
Yes.
And this is at a time when the federal government is talking about making additional changes to the United States Postal Service. And in some ways, the United States Postal Service's success at mail-in balloting is somehow viewed as a negative. And so under those circumstances, I'm thrilled that we have an alternative. And that alternative is both the printed home ballots. I like to call them printed home because, web delivered makes it sound like they may be web returned, and they're not. And we have more mail-in ballot voters who use drop boxes than who
I was just going to say, David, you didn't say drop off boxes.
Yep. Yeah, we don't call them drop-off boxes. You do, but we call them drop boxes. But whatever the case,
Dropbox is an app, and I think that is just as confusing.
I will just say that I'm happy to look for solutions that are technological solutions to make processing the ballots easier. I'm happy to look for solutions to help inform voters as to what they're getting, because I think a lot of them don't. I'm thrilled that Boris had the idea of reaching out to all those voters in advance, and we are going to look at other ways to do that. I personally would not favor limiting them to certain voters. I think that would be problematic in many ways.
100%. We can talk about that anytime, but I totally agree with the concept of what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Devil's in the details.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Wilkins. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a leader on the House side, and for making sure that our bills move through. And please, you have the floor.
Well, thank you, Chair Naaman. Really appreciate you and all of the time that you spent in Annapolis and also behind the scenes, making sure that we are making good policy. I want to say to the board that we make our best policy as legislators, especially on election law, when it's coming straight from you all and your experiences and what we need to improve on. So I want to really start by thanking the Montgomery County Board of Elections for giving us great policy ideas, several of which passed this legislative session, and for your engagement with us. And also to Senator Kagan, who is my partner across chambers on election law. I'm really proud that we have a great working relationship on this issue, and to have your leadership and your voice on issues dealing with voting rights and elections. So thank you, Senator Kagan, for all that you do.
Thank you.
By way of update on the House side, is that, as was mentioned, first of all, I serve as the subcommittee chair for election law in the House in the Ways and Means Committee. So any bill that deals with elections, voting rights, or election law comes to the Ways and Means Committee if it's introduced in the House, and is dealt with in my subcommittee on what we move forward with and recommend to the full committee and also on the floor. And I defend most of these bills as well when they come to the floor. We passed 16 bills out of the House before crossover this year. So those were of all of the bills that were introduced, I think we had close to 80 or so bills this legislative session on election law. We passed 16 of them out of the House. And so those were our priorities that we thought were really critical, especially getting closer to a gubernatorial election. That this was a really critical year for us. Of those bills, and I think the senator won't mind me mentioning this, I think the way that I would describe election law in the Maryland General Assembly is that the House, we pass what we think is really important, really critical. The Senate does the same. And then towards the end, we're kind of going back and forth and trying to figure out what achieves final passage, which sometimes can be very interesting, certainly behind the scenes. But I wanted to point out some of the additional bills that haven't been mentioned yet. The election date bill, which has been mentioned 2 times, which was the bill that I sponsored, but I did want to add that June 23rd is going to be our election date, anticipating the governor's signature on that bill. And I wanted to emphasize that the bill changes the date in the future to be the 4th Tuesday of every month instead of every gubernatorial in June. So the fourth Tuesday of June, not every month, help us all. The fourth Tuesday of June, not the fifth Tuesday in June, and that avoids Juneteenth and other holidays in the future. So it's a permanent change to our voting date in the gubernatorial. We also looked at, and the House was really proud around our bill regarding a language assistance program. So the way that that will work is that SBE will take a look at census data and other data and determine what boards and what counties will be required to create a robust language assistance program, and in what languages. And I do sort of expect that, given our diversity in Montgomery County, that we'll be on that list. But
will be.
that will be a new program to help ensure that our English as a second language individuals and those who speak other languages are getting the full assistance that they need. That was sponsored by Delegate Maricoon North on the House side, and I apologize, I don't recall. Was that you? That was
It was Senator Augustine who sponsored it on the Senate side.
Yep, perfect. So that'll be something that'll
Significantly amended to protect our counties on funding.
Right. So that'll be something that really impacts Montgomery County. I also wanted to highlight that after years and years and years of moving the RLA bill, risk limiting auditing, we have finally achieved final passage of that. So thank you, Senator Kagan, for your leadership and support on that in the Senate. So we are moving as a state into what is considered the gold standard of auditing. We know that we have to audit after every single election. And with RLA, we're using our math and our statistics and our hand counting to have a more efficient and more reliable way to conduct our auditing. So risk limiting audits has been circulating, for years now. Delegate Kaiser has been leading that legislation, and we finally have achieved full passage. So lots of Montgomery County leadership on election law happening. We already talked about the nonpartisan Board of Education contests, and that was a really important one, and one that Montgomery County Board of Elections led. I will mention two that didn't make it that I want to keep on the radar. One is that the House is very interested in the issue of curbside voting. And the way the bill was introduced this year would be a pilot where we would have about 2 curbside voting locations in the state to take a look at how we can increase access for people with disabilities, where literally the voting system would be brought outside and they would be assisted outside in being able to vote. So we are really interested in expansion of different options for people with physical disabilities, and also those who are sight impaired as well. And curbside voting is one of those options that we're looking at. The last one that I wanted to mention that didn't make it deals with voter registration age. Right now, we know that individuals, our young people, can register at 16 years old. We have a bill that Delegate Fair out of Frederick introduced that would change it to 15 and 9 months in order to coincide with when our young people are starting to learn how to drive and starting to interact with the MVA. So the idea behind it is that we think it makes more sense that when they're going through that change, they're interacting with the MVA. That is a perfect point for them to get registered to vote as well. So instead of having it at 16, have it at 15 and 9 months. That bill didn't achieve final passage, but I'm sure the sponsor will bring it back again. So that is my recap in terms of the bills that we haven't discussed yet, and just another round of thank you for your engagement and your expertise this legislative session.
Well, and the same thanks right back at you. And I have a couple of questions about things that didn't make it, but that perhaps could in the future. Concerning the last bill that you mentioned, Delegate Wilkins, the 15 years and 9 months registration date, do I recall correctly that it passed the House and then went over to the Senate? And then if that is the case, my question for Senator Kagan is, do you have any idea if there's a particular problem with that? Because I think that the theory behind that makes sense to me, that your first interaction with the difference between 15 years and 9 months and 16 is not great, but but if you're eligible for your learner's permit at 15 years and 9 months, that might be a good time to catch people.
Yep. David, I don't think we're going to have bill hearings here or debate bills because we could be talking about special elections or simplified ballots or so many other issues. So it did die in the Senate. And I think Delegate Fair and I had a bill together last year. I like him a lot. I think it's worthy of a conversation, as are several bills that didn't pass.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that we're not having a bill hearing, especially since we as the Board of Elections have no jurisdiction over bills, but we do have the rare opportunity to ask you all for advice about next year. And one of the bits of advice that I would want to add, the second one, and again, if you'd rather have the conversation elsewhere, that's fine, is we're very happy that the bill passed that says that people who take our training as election judges must serve as election judges in order to get paid.
Yes.
As you know, that bill had two parts.
Yes.
One part was that, and one part was allowing our student judges to get both SSL hours and pay, and it was amended to say that you could get either or, which to us in Montgomery County,
which is current law, David. We just have to remove that part out.
Yeah, it's not current law, but it is current practice in Montgomery County. But I guess the question is, again, to us, we have a younger average age of our judges than many jurisdictions in Maryland, but we still feel like we need to do a lot more because they are the future of our election workers, and it's harder and harder to get older judges to work the 16-hour day, et cetera. And so anything that we can do to incentivize our younger judges, we want to do. So we would certainly be interested in hearing if there are ways that could be passed in the future, and if not, if there are any other ideas about incentivizing our younger folks. That one did not strike us. I mean, that one basically has no cost. So struck us as being not that difficult to do.
Yeah, we do have and I'm happy to answer any questions about why certain things didn't move or what we can do in the future. And I can speak on special elections. I know that's come up a couple times. But on that one, the House and Senate, this is one of those examples where the House and Senate just, I guess, have a difference of opinion. Hopefully we can at some point get on the same page. Where on the House side, we do pass the bill to say that they can get a monetary compensation and the student service learning. And I think the Senate has a difference of opinion, which is okay. But hopefully in the future we can figure something out. But I know that's been, I think, the second year in a row where we've had a difference, and maybe we can find some time in the interim to figure out what our exact differences are and try to figure out a way forward on that piece.
Just to be clear, David, I was sponsor of the bill that did have both components.
You were
So,
indeed, and we endorsed your bill.
I know.
It's the one bill we endorsed this year that was not our own. Not our own idea. So we thought it was a great idea. And yes, I want to be very clear about that. No, we thought it was a great idea. Wish it was our idea. But we are definitely interested in helping it to become law. So, and I realize that, yes, those kinds of things might not be decided today. You guys are still getting over the last session before you worry about the next one. But we're definitely interested in discussing that and other things. I'll tell board members that I already had discussed with Senator Kagan and Delegate Wilkins, and they both indicated that they were favorably disposed towards the ideas of changing our board so that we no longer have substitute members and that the substitute members become regular members of the board. That legislation will be introduced for the next session because it basically didn't have to happen this year in order for that to happen. But that's certainly on my agenda for next year. So any other questions or comments for Senator Kagan or Delegate Wilkins? I know Delegate Wilkins has a hard stop coming up in a minute or two. Senator Kagan may as well. I just know that
Yep.
I heard from Delegate Wilkins.
Good.
Okay, I don't see anyone's hand up, so I'll just say thank you to you both. It's been a pleasure working with you both, and I look forward to our continued collaboration. We do understand that the even-numbered years are not the best years for big changes in elections. Those are for the smaller changes. I'm glad we were able to accomplish what we did in 2025, and we look forward to working with you as things go along. And of course, just as you're asking for input from us, we want input from you. So, and not that either of you have been shy about that, but I'll just say that we are happy to get your input. We're happy to provide explanations for the things that we know about. We're happy to learn about things that we don't. So, so thank you very much for working with us.
Thank you again.
Okay.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Bye all.
Okay, before we return to the agenda, let me just ask if there are any other legislative issues for us to discuss. I think we don't have an indication as to when the bills will be signed for any of these bills. The way the governor's office has been doing this, they announced the list of bills very shortly. But the signing dates that the governor is going to sign bills are already on his website, but the list of bills, the list for tomorrow was not posted as of noon today. So, so the way this works is I saw like a preliminary list, but I think it's highly unlikely that our bills will be on the calendar for tomorrow. But I don't have additional information about that. I will obviously let everyone know when our bills are being signed. Any other thoughts or questions about the legislative session? Daniel.
Yes, Mr. President, just quickly, I would like to touch, is there a separate line on the council, the county council meeting today that may touch on what was just discussed? If not, then I was wondering what are the budgetary implications for some of the bills that was passed. One specific one that was passed around language. How would that impact our budgets with the county council?
Let me ask that question of Boris, because I know Boris has followed that bill very, very closely. And I do know that a lot of what it requires are things we do. So, but Boris, why don't you address that?
So, three things. Number one, we already do a lot of things. Number two, despite or even without this bill, we already planned to translate a sample ballot and post it on our website in any language that county services can provide translation. So we are going ahead with that. When it comes to the financial impact of this bill, we try to play with hypothetical, but it's very hard because the state board has to do the assessment based on the census, has to determine the number of eligible voters in each language group that meet the criteria per census of certain level of English proficiency, use of the other language at home, or English not being the first language. And only then, once we get the list of the languages, we'll be able to do the math on what will be the impact on us. My understanding, if I remember from the top of my head, that the state has till February to provide that list and post it on their website and indicate, notify the local boards, me and the board, which languages we have to address through that bill. So we will be sitting and doing the math once that list is provided, because I think the requirement is 2% or 4,000 registered eligible voters per language who are not sufficiently proficient or something like that. So I would leave that to the census expert to determine the number, and then we will be acting on the instructions from the state.
So I would like to flag the fact that we've been struggling with our outreach budget. So any state law, right, that would require our board to do more, we may want to, make sure that we request adequate funding for to do outreach.
Fair enough. My recollection of the bill is deals with the sample ballots, deals with the posters at the polling places, deals with the voting instructional material that is produced in different languages. There is operational issue there, how we do distribute those specific translated pieces of information to which location, right? So because we don't know necessarily where those people are, who they are, right? We'll have data from census. But I think this is the conversation that we'll have with the state as well, because the question is to which extent they will take on them to address their promotional material that we just piggyback on many instances. So there will be a lot of talk about this one going forward.
Thank you, Boris.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Boris, and thank you, Daniel. Anyone else? Okay, Boris, why don't you resume with your report wherever you left off? I think you were talking about the IT section, perhaps?
Yes, and so I was moving to operations section. Mindy and her team, they are shredding the remaining unvoted ballots, outdated forms, signs, and posters, anything that's 2024 elections related that is not reusable. We basically organizing the warehouse and getting ready to put the stock in order for 2026. Part of the process, of course, is analyzing the turnout, breakdown per precincts and polling places, so we can start designing our supply order for each polling place in the county. The last section is recruitment, training, and outreach. We are still processing applications. We are doing the outreach events. The colleagues are teaming up, going to any event that's available in the county where we can meet with the voters. I believe just one of them last week was the job fair. I think we collected something like 50 applications, or 56 applications. 56 applications for election judges just in one day. Again, applications are coming in. Outreach is a team effort, both in this section, but also for the colleagues in other sections as well. We are working with the state to look at the election judges training manual, analyzing what issues were raised by election judges and chief judges in the course of early voting election day to see if we can introduce any changes to our own training and our own processes to alleviate these issues going forward. And of course, the whole team will take part in testing election resource management system that we spoke quite a bit this morning going forward, that we are developing in cooperation with TAPS. Every team will get their section to test, report the findings, so the system can be polished in a way that it will be the most useful for us and most efficient for our volunteers, our users on the end. When it comes to meeting and events, it's ongoing. Scheduled biennial is this year, May 4th and May 5th. Mayor conference is from May 5th to May 9th. And of course, this morning, board president, board secretary, myself, and my colleague Lisa Marina Dean, we met council GO committee to discuss fiscal 26 budget. And I think it was mentioned that the committee supported it for the full council to take it further. So that will be director's report.
Okay, are there any questions for Boris about the director's report? Okay, thank you very much, Boris. We'll move on to the board attorney's report. Kevin.
Thank you, David. So I've been keeping you posted on two cases. One is the Gibson case that challenged the integrity of the 2020 election results and required a litigation hold by the Attorney General's office. And then the second case is the Maryland election integrity case, where they challenged the 2022 election results and resulted in a litigation hold for those election materials as well. They both have now gone through the Fourth Circuit. The Fourth Circuit has affirmed the United States District Court for the District of Maryland, finding that they both plaintiffs in both lawsuits lack standing, Article 3 standing, to bring suit in the first instance. Um, so a motion for reconsideration was filed in Gibson. That was denied. We are now kind of getting down to the finish line here. The deadline to file a petition for writ of certiorari is May 5th in the Maryland election integrity case for 2022. It is May 16 in the Gibson case for the 2020 election-related materials. And I assume that I will be receiving a call on May 6th and May 16th from Mindy, wondering whether she can at long last shred materials that should have been shredded many, many years ago. And I will be hopefully providing you good news on those dates. Other
Okay,
than that,
Kevin, I have a reminder on my calendar for both dates to reach out.
Okay.
She'll be at Mayo for one of those dates, but that might not stop her. So because I hear the phone can go where she goes.
Yes.
So
it's I don't have anything else to report.
Okay. Any questions for Kevin? All right. So let's then move on to old business, which is well, we've already really had our old business, which was to discuss the General Assembly session. It's hard to think of it as old since it just concluded this month, but we did get through that already. Is there any other old business? All right, Boris, let's go to the website update.
Okay, just very briefly, as it was presented last time, I think that we are developing the non-election year regular pattern here. If you look at the first row for the months January, February, March, we are talking almost about identical number of page views.
Boris, if you mean to be sharing your screen with us, that is not happening at the moment.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so just very briefly, if you take a look at the first row that spans for January, February, and March, number of page views, there's a pretty consistent number, and this is the pattern throughout the whole report. There was an anomaly in February that I reported to the board that we had quite few visitors to our election inclement weather policy this year. But this was literally a fallout from the bad weather in the county, and just the frequency of visit to our website led to many voters to land on our website while they were most likely checking CPS or the transport. When it comes to for the current view, you will see that there's still interest in the election judges' connection that our voters, our volunteers are checking, and the election maps keep popping up there. In general, website is being used to the average non-election year usage at this point.
Okay, are there any questions for Boris about the website update? All right, seeing none, let's go to Dr. Zelaya for the outreach update.
You'll share space with me?
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I was going to say this is quite a feat because you are logged into the meeting and yet there you are. So
I was multitasking. I forgot to log off.
Yeah. No worries.
So
thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. So as you can tell, a lot of activity. Spring has sprung, including the high pollen counts, but nonetheless, we're going out into the community. I know the board has received the calendar, just also posted. It's very fluid, so I plan to update since we've recently confirmed new events. The next large event we're trying to coordinate is National Voter Registration Day, which is on Tuesday, September 16th. We'll be working hand in hand with Montgomery County Public Libraries to use their facilities, and we will be going across the county from opening to close. So there's still a couple more months ahead, but just want to share that with the public and with the board. The upcoming large events for May are the Active Aging Expo, which is at Bower Park, one of our early voting centers, on Thursday, the 1st of May. The county will be holding their Asian Pacific Islander celebration at Seneca Valley High School on Sunday, May 4th. The Montgomery County will hold their Safety Day, which will be held at the MCPS Carver Education Center on Saturday, May 10th. City of Rockville will be holding their two-day hometown holiday from Saturday and Sunday, May 24th and 25th. City of Rockville will be holding their senior health fair on Wednesday, May 28th. There's the Older American Month celebration on Friday, the 30th of May at the White Oak Community Center. And we're also visiting and attending all of Montgomery County executives' community conversation. The next one is next week at the Silver Spring Civic Building on the 28th of April. And we're also visiting all the high schools as we speak to encourage our high school seniors before they graduate, if they meet the state requirements to register to vote, to do so. At any time, any board member has an event or they've heard, just forward me the flyer, the email, the postage, whatever it takes, and then I'll make sure that we set that up to have a presence. I appreciate the continuous support from the board members and the public, and anyone on the virtual session today. Please reach out and share any activity, regardless if there's 5 people or 5,000. We feel that we should be present to engage the community. We're not only doing voter registration, we're encouraging individuals to sign up to become poll workers for the upcoming next year, 2026 gubernatorial elections. Also, we do have cancellation forms, voter registration cancellation forms, also mail-in, permanent mail-in cancellation forms if they feel they need to do that, applications, etc. And we're there to field any questions they may have. And that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Z. I would just say that I heard this morning about an upcoming Rockville Arts Festival and a Gaithersburg Book Festival. They may already be on in your brain, but I don't know that they're on this list, and it might be worth looking into those. I want to thank you for all the amazing outreach that you're doing. And I love the attitude that you'll go, whether there's 5 people or 5,000. Most events are going to be in between there somewhere, but we appreciate that, because I think that our showing the flag, even when there's a small number of people there, means a lot to people. I think it's part of letting people know what we're about. That we are about everybody. So thank you for that, Tina.
Perfect.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you for that. And thank you, Dr. Z, for sharing that presentation. I just want to echo what was just said earlier about attending no matter the number. I was able to see Dr. Z at the recent Middle Eastern Advisory Group Resource Fair. While attendance is not the biggest in comparison to other events I've attended, they were in full force that day, and it was wonderful to see. And so I encourage the community, even if it's an event that you might just be passing by, to stop by the table and gather information for yourself or for others in your family or your community. Because there's so many times that this board and their staff members get to these events. So do not let the event preclude you from being a part of the process of civic engagement.
And also a quick shout out to the team members across our agency, from both voter registration, recruitment, operations. It's a team effort. It's not just the outreach division and engagement.
Thank you for that. I should have mentioned that as well, but thank you for that. Thank you to everyone who assists you in this, because I know that it requires a lot of different people to get our outreach done. And thank you, Kina, for your question. Is there anything else on outreach? Okay. Next on the agenda under new business are the drop boxes locations for the 2026 cycle. So Mindy and Boris, please take it away.
Yeah, I will just say something at the very opening, and then Mindy will take us through, I believe, very short presentation as we are continuing where we stopped in 2024. We touched upon new legislation, and it's Senate Bill 259, I believe, that requires local boards to submit one action plan to the state board for approval 7 months before the primary election day. This plan would consist of our local boards approved list of Dropbox locations, early voting centers, and election day voting polling places. Today, we will, as staff, present to the board our proposal of locations for vote by mail drop boxes for the board to consider and approve. If approved, this will constitute the first part of the election plan for the Montgomery County Board of Elections 2026 gubernatorial election cycle. Per board schedule, the staff will prepare the list of polling places for May session for board to consider, review, and vote to approve. And in June, the same will be done for the early voting centers. That's it from me. Now, Mindy will take us through the list of the Dropbox locations.
Good afternoon. As Boris kind of touched on, our approach again this year and moving forward, not just with drop boxes, but polling places as well as early voting locations will be the continuity of services. So maintaining what we can, where we can, and how we can for our voters throughout the county. So really quickly, I will share my screen. We'll just do a quick run through of the presentation. The 2026 gubernatorial election Dropbox locations. As mentioned, continuity of service is the theme for this year's. You don't see it? Does anybody else see it? Because I didn't share it. Bear with me. Okay, back to the beginning.
Now we see it.
So just a quick run through, as Boris mentioned, continuity of service, what we can, where we can, how we can, keeping what we can the same. Our proposal this year, continuity of service, the increased public acceptance of mail-in voting, and planning for accommodating the maximum utilization of any voting option throughout the county. Considerations for the locations, accessibility of the Dropbox to historically disenfranchised communities, including voters with disabilities, cultural groups, ethnic groups, and minority groups. Proximity of ballot drop boxes to a dense concentration of voters, accessibility of ballot drop box by public transportation, ensuring equitable distribution of drop boxes throughout the county, and maximizing voter participation, including through the use of community centers and public gathering spaces. The process for ballot drop boxes, we present our locations as we are today. The board accepts and approves the locations. Our locations are then submitted to the state board for approval. The installation is approximately 6 weeks prior to election day. Once installed and opened, the boxes are open to the public 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They will maintain 24/7 video surveillance and are locked promptly at 8 p.m. on election day. Bipartisan teams collect ballots from the drop boxes per SBE's schedule. Once a day pickup begins 6 weeks prior to election day. Twice a week pickup begins 1 week prior to election day. Mail-in ballots are returned to BOE per SBE's mandated chain of custody, and then the video footage is retained here for the 22-month mandatory period. Just a quick table of the ballots collected from all 58 ballot drop boxes during the 24 presidential general election. And then a list of all 58 proposed drop boxes that we wish to return to for the 26th cycle. And then we go into our maps. So this map is the Montgomery County map that depicts all 58 proposed locations. The same Montgomery County map with population density. Population density with a 2-mile buffer. We go into minority population without buffers, and then minority population with buffers. Household median income without buffers. Household median income with buffers. And then with that, that would be the end of the presentation.
So do you have data
David, you're
on?
muted.
Hmm,
Or you don't appear to be muted, but I can't hear you.
Okay, I was going to say I'm not sure that I'm muted, but
You're not muted, David.
No,
not.
you're not
You're
muted.
good now. You're good now.
okay. Do you have? Maybe you said it, but I want to make sure that I have this right. Do we have data on the percentage of Montgomery County voters who are within a certain distance of a drop box? I thought it was 90-some% that are within. I don't remember whether it was 2 miles or whatever. But I don't know whether I don't know what you have. So
Okay, I will take this one. I'll take this one. Just a second. I believe. I
you
think
guys
David,
aren't
you're
you guys
correct.
aren't using the owl today, are you?
No, David, you're absolutely correct. I think that the percentage of voters that we have covered within 2-mile radius of 55 drop boxes is 92.7 or something like that. 92.8. This
So
was
that was
the number
before that was before we added the college ones.
that was before we added college. I would still argue that number more or less stays the same because that area where the college is landed is saturated surrounding area with the different drop boxes is not in the outskirts. But I believe that when it comes to percentage of eligible voters that are covered within 2-mile radius, we are within. We are beyond any requirement that the state could impose on any local board to do anything. So we are good.
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand that. I just wanted to make sure that people were aware
Absolutely.
that we have. I mean, we have more than 92% of our voters who are within 2 miles of a drop box, which I think is a pretty good feat by itself. And then again, I wanted to clarify, and I will say for the record, I have no problem with the list that we have. It's the same as our list from before. But just so that for people to remind people, we have drop boxes at all of the early voting sites, or we're proposing drop boxes at all of the early voting sites, and we are proposing drop boxes at all of the high schools, the public high schools, with the exception of Northwood High School, which is under construction, and we have a drop box at Forest Knolls Elementary School, which is around the corner from Northwood High School. Now, Northwood High School is temporarily at the old Woodward building. There is not a drop box there, but there are drop boxes. There's drop boxes at the Montgomery County Conference Center and at Waller Johnson High School and at other locations nearby. Alex.
Mr. President, I wonder if I could ask if the staff would be willing to share the Excel version of that spreadsheet on slide number 5. I'd like to sort of sort the data just for my own purposes, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes, it is an interesting slide. I also looked at it for any patterns that I could find and discussed some of that with Boris. And we had a very hard time coming up with easily determined patterns. As Boris pointed out to me, in some cases that's going to be difficult because in some cases, for example, if you have a drop box that's near a a strong commercial area, there might be people who are using the Dropbox who don't live anywhere near where that Dropbox is. So you can't necessarily assume that it's reflective of the neighborhood or of the people who live in that neighborhood, because it may be reflective of the people who work in that neighborhood or who happen to shop in that neighborhood, or or whatever. But I'm happy to have everyone look at the data and see if there's anything that we can learn, not only about where the ballots are being deposited, but also where the printed home ballots are being deposited. And if there's any pattern to that could help us to educate those voters about what their options are. And I'm not sure that education will come at the Dropbox. It may very well be that, it's going to be something else. But I personally spent a lot of time looking for patterns, could not find them. Tried really hard. Proposed theories that got knocked down very easily. So, but Alex, maybe you'll have better luck than I.
I will keep your unrewarded efforts presently in mind as I look.
Well, and I'll be thrilled to find someone else who can, figure out the patterns, that I didn't. So anyway, any other questions about the Dropbox locations? Okay, is there a motion? Does someone want to move in terms of the staff recommendations on the Dropbox locations? Daniel?
So move.
Okay, so Daniel is moving that we adopt the staff's recommendations for Dropbox locations, which means that we would be recommending those locations to the State Board of Elections. Keena?
Second.
Okay.
And Mr.
Keena.
President, just for clarification, the subject of Vice President Karoma's motion is the locations on slide number 6, right?
I would have to go back and see what the slide
number.
The slide number is.
Yeah, it's without the added, in terms of parameters that were placed. So Mindy, you want to answer?
Yes, it is slide 6.
Number 6.
Okay. So yes, it is the ones listed in slide number 6. Which once again are the same 58 that we used in 2024. Is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous. Okay, excellent. Boris, what is our next month early voting, or is next month election day polling places?
Election day polling places.
Okay, so our next meeting will be election day polling places. Early voting centers will come at the meeting after that. So, and we are ahead of schedule, just like I was early for today's meeting. We are early for the state's. The state has moved the deadline for all of this a month earlier than it has been in the past, but we are going to be more than that in advance if we continue as we are now. So, but obviously we will consider everything carefully, and if there's need for us to delay any decisions, we will. Is there any other new business before we list the future action items?
Was there a vote? I'm sorry, David.
There was a vote. It was unanimous to to recommend the 58 as the staff recommended them.
There's nothing else for the new business here.
Okay. I don't recall there being future action items from today's meeting other than to talk with our legislators about some of our future legislation, which of course we will do over the next few months anyway. I don't think that's something that has to be listed on our action items. Does anyone have anything?
I think David, yeah. Alex had requested the information in an Excel spreadsheet.
Right, the Excel spreadsheet.
Right, fine.
And Boris, why don't you just send it to all of us?
I will. It will go to the board.
Okay, so the Excel to the board members. Okay, any other future action items? All right, so next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. The most recent version of the minutes was Ami sent us an email on April 16th at 10:32 p.m. with some suggested changes to my suggested changes to her suggested changes, but I believe that was the last one, which was April 16th at 10:32 p.m. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended in that email? Okay, moved by Alex. Is there a second?
Am I allowed to second my own correction?
Yes, your own corrections. Absolutely. You could have even moved your own corrections, but definitely. Okay, moved by Alex and seconded by Ami. Is there any discussion about the minutes? All those in favor, raise your hand. The minutes are approved unanimously. Okay, future meetings. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 19th, which is, again, we're on our regular schedule for May and June. The May meeting will be the discussion of Election Day polling places. The June meeting will include the discussion of early voting centers. After that, you may recall we are not meeting in the month of July, and we have moved our August meeting to the first Monday in August. So that will put our August meeting roughly halfway between our June meeting and our September meeting. So we have a meeting scheduled on Monday, August 4th, and then we're back on our regular schedule for Monday, September 15th. Any questions about our future meeting schedule? I will say that I have not thought about yet when our next in-person meeting should be, but I don't need to get your input now, but I'm happy to get input from you all as to when you might be available and when is a good time for an in-person meeting. Obviously, we're all going to see each other at the state required biannual meeting at the beginning of May. But we should probably have another in-person board meeting. Out of the next few, we should probably have at least one. So we can talk about that when the time comes. We also may want to do that when we have a replacement board member for Diane, so that person can meet everybody in person. So I think we'll want to consider that as well. Okay, before. Yes,
maybe
Alex.
might I suggest we sort of tentatively look at the September 15th meeting for that purpose, assuming we'll have a new colleague by then.
Oh, I'm hoping we'll have a new colleague long before then.
Yeah.
But yes, the September meeting is definitely a possibility for that. But let's think about whether well, we may have a better sense as to what the schedule is for getting a replacement in the next few weeks. So we'll get a better sense of that. But the September meeting is certainly a possibility. I do realize that basically everything from here on out, there's a potential for people to be away for various reasons on vacations and all that. That's really why I was saying to you all to let me know what your all's availability is. But we can do that offline. I don't think that requires us to do it in a meeting. And then before we adjourn, I believe Margie is about to have a motion, but before Margie makes her motion, a question for Kevin. If we have an executive session on the link that you provided and we wanted to start it before 5 o'clock, will it work, or do we need to take a break and then start at 5 o'clock?
I think it should work.
So I'll just let me just ask the board's pleasure. Would you rather start our executive session right after this meeting, or if we have one, or would you rather that we take a break and start at 5 o'clock?
Let's take a break, but for no more than 2 or 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm open to starting the executive session at 4:45 if possible.
Okay, then Margie, I'm ready for your motion.
I move that the board go into executive session
Two,
to discuss personnel matters that can't be discussed in open session.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Margie, seconded by Alex. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous. See you at 4:45. If for some reason it doesn't work, see you at 5. All right,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You might have a time.